In 1969, San Francisco was the counterculture capital of the world. It was the era of the summer of love, peace, music, and a social revolution that promised a bright future. But beneath the fog and the flowers, a different kind of shadow was forming. While a generation searched for enlightenment, one man hunted in the darkness, not for pleasure but for something much darker: fame. He was not a ghost. He didn't hide in the fringes of society. He was an artist of terror, a dramatist who demanded an audience. He didn't just kill, he advertised. He sent letters to the press, taunted the police, and crafted a cryptographic puzzle that would haunt America for decades. He wasn't a man. He was a character of his own creation, a name he chose and forced the world to learn. This is the file on the killer who turned Northern California into his personal stage. This is the Zodiac Dossier. It began in the dark, on a quiet country road. December 20th, 1968, Lake Herman Road, in Vallejo. It was a local lover's lane. David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, two high school students on their first date, parked there. There was no warning. Another car pulled up alongside them. A man got out and, with brutal calm, shot David in the head. Betty Lou tried to run. She was shot 5 times in the back. To the Vallejo police, it was a shocking, senseless crime. An execution, a robbery gone wrong. There were no leads, no suspects, no motive. The case went cold, almost instantly. The silence lasted for 6 months. Then, July 4th, 1969. Blue Rock Springs. Another lover's lane, just a few miles from the first site. Darlene Ferrin and Michael Mageau were sitting in their car when another vehicle approached and shut off its lights. A man exited, walked to the passenger window with a flashlight, and opened fire. Darlene was killed. Michael survived, despite being shot in the face, neck, and chest. And then, 40 minutes later, the phone rang at the Vallejo Police Department. A male voice, calm and monotonous, spoke. "I want to report a double murder," he said. "If you will go 1 mile east on Columbus Parkway to the public park, you will find kids in a brown car. They were shot with a 9mm Luger." The voice paused, before delivering the hook that would change everything. "I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye." The killer now had a voice, and soon he would have a name. On August 1st, 1969, 3 identical letters arrived at the newsrooms of the Bay Area's biggest papers: the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald. The letters began, "Dear Editor, this is the murderer." He provided details of the 2 attacks that only the killer and police could know. But it wasn't a confession. It was an ultimatum. Enclosed with the letters was a cryptogram, a 408 symbol puzzle. The author demanded the papers publish his cipher on their front page, or he would cruise around all weekend killing lone people in the night. The police were deadlocked. To publish was to give in to a terrorist. To refuse could mean more death. The police gave in to the ultimatum. They published. The front pages of San Francisco's newspapers exploded with the killer's 408 symbols, sending a wave of fear and obsession through the Bay Area. The puzzle, known as the Z408, became a fever, cracked in less than a week by a high school history teacher and his wife. The decoded message was chilling. It began, "I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all." The letter rambled on, filled with misspellings, about collecting slaves for his afterlife. The author wasn't just killing. He was building his own twisted mythology. And in his next letter, he christened himself. "This is the Zodiac speaking," he wrote, using for the first time the cross-circle symbol that would become his signature. The Zodiac had arrived, and he was about to stage his masterpiece. September 27th, 1969. The scene changes. Far from the dark city streets, under the bright afternoon sun, at Lake Berryessa. Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard, 2 college students, were picnicking on an isolated peninsula. They saw a man watching them from the trees. The man approached, and he was wearing something out of a nightmare. He wore a custom-made black executioner's hood, with clip-on sunglasses attached to the front. On his chest, in white, was the Zodiac symbol. He carried a gun and a long sheathed knife at his waist. He was in no hurry. He told them calmly that he was an escaped convict, and needed their money and car to get to Mexico. He had Cecilia tie up Brian. Then he tied up Cecilia. The robbery ruse was over. "I'm going to have to stab you," he said, almost casually. He stabbed Brian 6 times in the back. He stabbed Cecilia 10 times. As the couple lay bleeding, the Zodiac calmly walked back to Brian's car. He took out a black pen and, on the car door, he wrote his logbook. He listed the dates of his previous murders and added the new one. September 27, 69, 6:30, by knife. Cecilia Shepard would die 2 days later, but Brian Hartnell miraculously survived to tell the terrifying story of the hooded man. The Zodiac was now a living legend, a real-life boogeyman, and he was not finished. 2 weeks later, on October 11, 1969, he took his show to the main stage, the city of San Francisco itself. He stepped into a cab driven by Paul Stine, heading for the affluent Presidio Heights neighborhood, ready for his next act. At the corner of Washington and Cherry, the passenger shot Paul Stine in the head, point blank, killing him instantly. The killer then got out, opened the driver's door, and as neighbors watched from their windows, he began tearing a piece from Stine's blood-soaked shirt. Police arrived within minutes. A crucial radio dispatch error was made. The dispatcher told officers to look for a black suspect. Minutes later, 2 officers passed a heavy-set white man, wearing glasses, walking calmly down the sidewalk, just a block from the scene. They stopped, asked if he'd seen anything. The man said he saw someone with a gun running toward the park. The officers drove on. The Zodiac may have come within inches of being caught. 3 days later, a letter arrived at the San Francisco Chronicle. The envelope contained a swatch of cloth, stiff with the dried blood of Paul Stine. The letter was his most arrogant statement. "I am the murderer of the taxi driver," he wrote. "I am the same man who did in the people in the Vallejo and Napa area." He taunted the police for the dispatch error. "The police shall never catch me. Pie. The cops could chariously have caught me last night if they had searched the park properly. They just walked right by me." He ended the letter with a new threat. He was going to shoot up a school bus. "Shoot out the front tire," he detailed, "and then pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out." The city descended into full-blown panic. School buses across the Bay Area were now escorted by police convoys. The Zodiac was no longer just a murderer. He was California's boogeyman. And then, the game changed. He wanted more. He wanted mass media. The Zodiac sent a letter demanding that one of 2 famous lawyers, F. Lee Bailey or Melvin Belly, appear on a local morning talk show. Melvin Belly, the king of torts, agreed. During the show, a man called in, claiming to be the Zodiac. "I don't want to go to the gas chamber," he whispered. For weeks, Belly and the supposed Zodiac played a game of cat and mouse, until the caller was traced to a psychiatric hospital. A red herring. The real Zodiac was furious he had been upstaged. He sent more letters, more ciphers. The Z340, which remains undeciphered to this day. Detectives were drowning in tips, suspects, and fake letters. The investigation circled one man, Arthur Lee Allen, a disgraced schoolteacher with a dark past, who owned a Zodiac brand watch, who wore the right-size boots, and who had, according to friends, talked about hunting humans and using the name Zodiac. But the evidence never fit. The handwriting didn't match. The fingerprints didn't match. Years later, DNA taken from the envelopes would not match. Was Allen a monster? Probably. Was he the Zodiac? The file remains inconclusive. And then, as suddenly as it began, he stopped. The authentic letters slowed to a trickle, then vanished by the mid-1970s. Was the Zodiac caught? Did he die? Or did he simply get tired of the game when the press stopped giving him the front page? He was never caught. H. Holmes built a castle to hide his crimes. MKUltra destroyed the files to hide theirs. But the Zodiac did the opposite. He created the public dossier. He was the author, the lead actor, and the critic of his own terrible play. He didn't just want to kill. He wanted his name to be remembered. He wanted us to know he was out there, watching, taunting, hiding in plain sight. The 340 cipher is still out there. A page of meaningless symbols, waiting for a key. A final challenge from the man who turned murder into a puzzle and ensured that his dossier would never be closed. Some stories were never meant for the light, but they are the stories that must be told. They are the files that must be opened. This has been a file from America's Dark Dossier. If you believe that the past is never truly dead, subscribe and help us open the next file.